There was once a fisherman who lived beside a quiet, misty river. Every morning, long before dawn, he rushed out of his small wooden hut with tangled nets slung over his shoulder. He had one goal: catch more fish than anyone else. To him, effort was everything. If he woke earlier, worked harder, moved faster, surely success would follow. But one particular morning, something felt different. Ambition burned in his chest like a small fire. He marched straight into the river, ignoring the cool water soaking through his clothes. He hurled his net into the river with all the strength he had. The usually calm river exploded with splashes. Mud swirled, water churned, and his frustration churned with it. Hours passed. Not a single fish. His muscles ached. His breath grew heavy. Finally, in a burst of anger, he slammed the net into the water and shouted, "Why won't the fish come to me?" From the riverbank, an old man, who had been sitting silently beneath a willow tree, looked up. His eyes were calm, almost amused. "You're stirring the water too much," the old man said gently. "The fish can't see through the waves you create. Sit, wait, let the river settle." The fisherman wanted to argue, but he was simply too tired. He dragged himself onto the soft grass and sat down defeated. Minutes crawled by. Slowly, the chaos he created faded. The muddy water cleared. The ripples smoothed themselves into glass. The river became quiet again. So quiet he could hear his own heartbeat. The old man picked up a simple wooden fishing rod. No fancy nets, no force. He stepped to the water's edge, lowered the line with almost no sound, and within moments he pulled out a shimmering fish. The fisherman stared, stunned. "How?" "I did everything. I worked harder than ever." The old man smiled. "When you stop forcing," he said, "things begin to flow." The fisherman looked out at the now still water and finally understood. Sometimes the world doesn't respond to more strength, more tension, or more noise. Sometimes it responds to stillness. Taoism has a word that describes what happened to the fisherman. It's called Wu Wei, and it's usually translated as effortless action or non-forcing. Now, the first thing people get wrong about Wu Wei is thinking it means laziness. It also doesn't mean doing nothing because you don't care. Wu Wei actually means acting in harmony with the natural flow of things instead of fighting against them. It's about choosing the path that works with the moment, not against it. Think about how we normally live. We push, we hurry, we overthink. We try to control everything, even things that can't be controlled. And the more pressure we add, the more stuck we feel. Wu Wei is the opposite of that. It's action without struggle, movement without unnecessary tension, progress without stress. It's that feeling you get when something suddenly becomes easy and natural, like when you're working and the ideas come to you without effort. Or when you're playing a sport and your body moves on its own without overthinking every step. That's Wu Wei. You're still doing, but you're not forcing. Nature is the perfect example of this. A bird doesn't spend all day flapping its wings as hard as it can. Most of the time it glides by using the wind. It lets the wind do the heavy lifting. Or take water. Water doesn't try to be powerful, yet it can carve through rock. It flows around obstacles instead of fighting them directly. It always finds the easiest path forward. Wu Wei teaches us to live more like that, to stop choosing the hardest path, just because it feels like hard work. Sometimes the smarter path is the one that flows naturally, and when you force things, you usually make everything worse. Just like the fisherman, he splashed, he rushed, he threw his nets with all his strength, but all that effort only scared the fish away. When he finally stopped, when the river settled, that's when things started to work. Wu Wei is that simple idea. When you stop fighting the moment works with you. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the right thing at the right time, with the right amount of effort. Not too much, not too little. Just enough to move with life instead of against it. We live in a world that seems obsessed with effort. Everywhere you look, the message is the same. Push harder, grind harder, hustle harder. Success is measured by how much we do, how fast we move, how many boxes we check in a day. It's as if the harder we push, the closer we get to the life we want. But Taoism asks a very different question. What if the harder you push, the more you get in your own way? Think about it for a moment. How often have you lain in bed, desperately trying to fall asleep, and found that the more you struggle, the wider awake you become? Or perhaps you've sat down to create, whether it's a piece of art, a story, or even a simple solution to a problem. And the harder you force it, the more ideas seem to vanish. The more you clutch at control, the more it slips through your fingers. These are not coincidences. They are reminders that force in the wrong place often backfires. Taoism teaches us to observe these patterns not as failures, but as lessons. Nature in particular offers the clearest guidance. Taoists studied the world around them and saw how life unfolds effortlessly when it is allowed to flow. Take water, for instance. Water never tries to be water. It doesn't strain to move or force itself to flow. It doesn't cling to form or fight obstacles. And yet, through its quiet persistence, water shapes mountains, carves valleys, and nourishes life. Its power is subtle, almost invisible, yet undeniable. This is the essence of what Taoists call effortlessness. It's not laziness, and it's not passivity. Effortlessness is the ability to act in harmony with the natural course of things. It's doing what is needed without adding unnecessary tension, without forcing outcomes, without creating friction against reality. It's the idea that the greatest power often comes not from struggle, but from stillness, from clarity, from the absence of force. Consider again the fisherman by the river. He spent hours splashing, shouting, and adjusting his net, trying every trick he knew to catch a fish. And yet, his effort only stirred the water, scared away the fish, and left him exhausted and empty-handed. Only when he stopped, only when he allowed the river to settle, did the fish appear. The lesson is simple, yet profound. Sometimes the very act of forcing keeps what you want out of reach. The same principle applies in our daily lives. Pushing too hard can create tension when none is needed. It can block creativity, increase anxiety, and even reduce performance. Overthinking a decision can trap us in indecision. Trying to micromanage every outcome can prevent the natural unfolding of events that might have led to a better result. When we cling, we often break. When we force, we often miss. But when we step back, when we allow a bit of space, when we act with clarity instead of compulsion, things begin to flow. The path opens, the right opportunities appear, and solutions arise almost effortlessly. This doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the right thing at the right time, in the right way, without unnecessary struggle. Taoism also emphasizes timing. Effort is important, but so is rhythm. Just as the river has moments of stillness and moments of movement, life has moments when action is required and moments when patience is more powerful. Acting against the natural rhythm is what creates friction. Acting in tune with it, even with minimal effort, can achieve far more than relentless force ever could. This idea can be applied in many areas of life. In work, instead of forcing creativity or productivity, allow yourself periods of rest and reflection. In relationships, instead of trying to control others, focus on understanding and presence. In learning, instead of pushing knowledge to stick by sheer repetition, allow curiosity and interest to guide you. In every case, forcing outcomes tends to backfire, while flow tends to succeed. Ultimately, the Taoist perspective reminds us that the world responds to us differently than we often expect. The universe is not a machine we can control through brute force. It is a living system, responsive to alignment, attention, and timing. Force is like trying to row upstream in a fast river, exhausting, inefficient, and often counterproductive. Effortlessness, aligned with flow, is like letting the river carry you forward. You still move, but with far less struggle and far greater results. The river, like life, reveals its gifts only when it is calm. Water doesn't argue with rocks. It doesn't fight the current. It adapts, moves, and eventually overcomes obstacles simply by following its nature. The same is true for us. When we stop forcing, when we allow things to unfold with clarity and ease, the obstacles that once seemed immovable often vanish. The solutions we sought appear, and what felt impossible becomes effortless. So, next time you feel the urge to push harder, pause for a moment and ask yourself, am I forcing this? Or am I moving with the natural flow of the situation? Sometimes the answer is not more effort, it's less. Sometimes the most effective action is the one that comes from stillness, observation, and harmony. It is in those quiet moments, when we step back and stop struggling, that clarity arises. Solutions appear, opportunities unfold, and life moves forward with a grace that effort alone can never create. This is the Taoist lesson, and it is everywhere if we pay attention. It is in the river that reveals its fish only when the water is calm. It is in the wind that guides the bird's wings without struggle. It is in the life of the calm fisherman who discovers that trying too hard only pushes success away. Force often blinds us to what is already present. It makes us anxious, impatient, and disconnected. Effortlessness, on the other hand, opens our eyes. It allows us to see the possibilities that were always there. It teaches us patience without passivity, action without tension, and strength without struggle. Living this way does not mean we stop trying or stop caring. It means we choose wisely when to act, when to wait, and when to allow life to unfold. It means we trust that the natural rhythm of things often accomplishes more than frantic effort ever could. So, let go of the need to control every outcome. Stop shaking the waters around you. Sit quietly for a moment. Observe, breathe, and act when the moment is right. In doing so, you may find that the results come not just with less effort, but with far more ease, clarity, and fulfillment than you ever imagined. In the end, the world is not a battle to win, it is a dance to join. And the dance flows best not when you push, but when you move in harmony with it. That is the wisdom of Taoism. That is the power of Wu Wei. That is the gentle, unstoppable force of effortlessness.